Hi, I'm Maggie de Vries. I'm the author of Somebody's Girl, and I wanted to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about where the story came from. It all started with this book, Chance and the Butterfly, which I wrote quite a few years ago. And there's a girl in that book, in Chance and the Butterfly, called Martha, who's really, really mean to Chance. And I started asking myself, I wonder why she's so mean. I wonder why she acts that way. And I started coming up with ideas about what her life might be like. And those ideas got me started, and I ended up writing this book, Somebody's Girl. I'm sitting right now at my desk in my office where I do a lot of my writing. I don't do all my writing here. Sometimes I write in bed, sometimes I write at coffee shops, sometimes I sit on the couch downstairs and work with the cats. But most of my work I do right here, so I thought you'd like to see the spot where I work. Later on, when you see this film, you're going to see a scene down by the river where part of the story is set. And you're going to see another scene at Inch Creek Hatchery where part of the story is set. And you're also going to see some crows flying over the river because crows are such a big part of the story. So it started out to be a story about a girl, but sturgeon and crows ended up being a really important part. And if you have any questions, I hope you get in touch with me to ask me. You can easily find me through my website, maggiedevries.com. And I hope you like Martha's story. I'd like to read you a scene from Somebody's Girl right in the place where it happened. This scene in the story actually happened to me long before I had the idea to write Somebody's Girl. And I wrote it down when I got home, and then when I was working on the story I realized that it would fit in perfectly, so I changed it to happen to Martha instead of me. In the story, Martha leaves the house on Christmas Day when she's staying with Chance. She's having a horrible time and she escapes to the river. And I'd like to read you a little bit of what happens to her there. The mist had cleared a bit close by, or perhaps she had walked out of it, for she saw a pale blue canoe tied up to a log below the quay, and she saw the water now, dead calm, like glass, like a mirror. Its orange surface drove her gaze upward to the sky, which was a place in itself, all clouds and color. Then she heard the cawing. She looked higher still. Crows, a murder of them. She loved that they were called that, a murder. She had learned it after her encounter with the hungry crow at the Discovery Center. They were crossing the river, high, high in the sky, passing right over her head. They were going home, back to the woods near Boundary Bay. That was what Doug had told her that day. They were coastal crows, and they used to live way far west near the beaches. Now they lived right in between Vancouver and Burnaby, thousands and thousands of them. As she watched, the crows above her flew on, at least 100. She looked back the way they had come and saw more, many, many more, all coming from the same place, all flying in the same direction, streaming for their roosts. She fixed her gaze on the far side of the river, behind the last of the crows. Moments passed. Then black specks appeared, as if someone had sprinkled pepper on the sky. The specks turned into more crows, approaching across the water. She watched. Another 40 specks. Then another. "What are you watching?" Martha turned, startled and angry all in an instant. It was Doug. "Crows," she said. And that's the scene in the book as it happened to Martha, but as I said at the beginning, it actually happened to me. And the key is there behind me, and that's the key that Martha's standing on when she sees the crows. And I don't know if you noticed, but right while I was reading that scene to you, some crows flew overhead. You might have heard them cawing. Hi, I am standing right now on a little dock in the middle of the pond at the Inch Creek Hatchery near Mission, British Columbia, where the sturgeon live that you will have met, or maybe you're going to meet, in my book, Somebody's Girl. This place is near Mission, as I said, and my husband and I right now are on our way to go camping at Harrison Hot Springs, and we thought we would stop and record some footage so that you can see part of where the book Somebody's Girl is set. And today it is July 18th, 2012, just in case you're curious about that. And this is a spot that I came to quite a long time before I decided to write a story about Martha, when I was researching to write this book, Tale of a Great White Fish, a Sturgeon Story. And this is more of a kind of a story/science book. And I was asked to write this book, so I didn't really know anything about sturgeon when I came to write it. And when I was researching, I found out that sturgeon can live for 200 years and that they can grow to be enormous. They can grow to weigh 2,000 pounds and to be 20 feet long because they grow for their whole lives. I found that really, really interesting. And then when I decided to write a book about Martha, who's a character in Chance and the Butterfly, and I wanted to tell her story, I decided that she and Chance would be studying sturgeon in their class at school, because I already knew quite a lot about the fish, and I thought they were really interesting. I thought Martha and Chance would like them, and I also thought there were some things about them that kind of fit this story thematically, which was interesting for me. So rather than just depend on my memory from when I was here researching for the other book, I decided to make a trip here again and to do it as if I were Martha, so to kind of pretend that I was her having this experience. And I found that to be a really, really good way to approach my story. The day I came here, the salmon were spawning. They were swimming up a creek that runs right over there, and there were eggs in the creek that I could see, and the salmon were leaping in the tanks behind us there. Today, some of those tanks are dry. There's no salmon swimming up the creek. It's not the right time of year, but there are tiny little salmon swimming in tanks in that fenced-in area there. So there's always things going on here. And that is the story of Inch Creek Hatchery near Mission, British Columbia, and a story of part of the setting for Somebody's Girl.